This is Think Out Loud on OPB. I'm Dave Miller. Portland has a new all-ages venue, a place where young bands and their young fans can gather for music. It's called The Offbeat. The nonprofit Friends of Noise opened the venue in the Kenton neighborhood last fall and held a grand opening show headlined by Team Dresch last month. André Middleton is the executive director of Friends of Noise. Clara Kornelis is a musician and sound engineer and a booker for The Offbeat. She's also a senior in high school. They join us now to talk about what it means to have an all-ages space for young performers and fans of live music. It's great to have both of you on the show.
Thanks for having us.
I should say before we start that OPB's engineer, Nalene Silva, is the booking, venue, and production manager at The Offbeat. We are thrilled to have him at OPB for the rest of the time. Andre, can you remind us what Friends of Noise does?
Friends of Noise is an all-ages music nonprofit that seeks to see, support, and amplify the voices of young people through the performing arts. So we have workshops on professional development, on sound engineering, stage fright versus stage presence. Then we actually book concerts in collaboration with folks like Clara, where young people are running sound, they're designing the flyers, they're running lights. Then we have a professional development facet where we teach workshops like sound engineering, where those young people join our Sound Squad Supreme, and they actually do events all over town. In fact, we're going to be later today at the Oregon Historical Society, where we have a young woman from Vancouver named Reese Cook and a young man from Roosevelt High School. They're going to be doing an event for the Oregon Arts Commission at the Oregon Historical Society.
How long has an all-ages venue been part of your vision?
Oh, since day one. I used to work at the Regional Arts and Culture Council, and there was an amazing space called Backspace that closed down in 2015. And at that point, there were no all-age music venues in Portland, despite having a great history of them.
Right, in the 90s, it was famous, right?
Exactly. So we just have been putting together our pennies and dimes and nickels and thinking about how we could actually eventually have a space. Our first purchase was an actual small portable PA. So we've been doing shows in church basements and backyards and art galleries, even under bridges.
So making spaces in a kind of guerrilla fashion or established, but super DIY, as opposed to just a brick and mortar place that you could call your own.
Correct.
Clara, how did you first get involved with Friends of Noise?
I took the Sound Squad Supreme class. That's just a few years ago now, but then that filtered into working with Friends of Noise consistently. So I started by doing sound engineering, and then I found an interest in booking, so I've been doing that more, and then also learning how to do production management at the venue. And having a space gives me a lot more opportunities to work on other skills outside of just sound.
So you're a musician yourself. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about your band?
Yeah, we're called They Shoot Horses. And the first show we played was under a bridge with Friends of Noise gear that some friends and I put together.
How was that show?
It was good. It was great. It was just about a year ago now. And yeah, we just hauled all this gear out there and a generator and just a bunch of teenagers putting it together with the help.
Have you and your bandmates tried to get gigs in more official spaces around town?
We haven't really, because we have Friends of Noise on our side. So
you didn't need to.
You
could go under the bridge, but did you? How much have you wanted to perform in spaces that that didn't exist?
Yeah, I mean, I feel very satisfied by now. I feel like there is an all-ages scene brewing and making our own spaces. And I mean, even before the Offbeat, right, people will make spaces under bridges and make spaces in their basements or skate parks. So I feel like just the drive of young people has created spaces for us to play for each other.
Andre, when did you first hear about the space? The space that's now the Offbeat. When did you find out that it was available?
We found out that the formerly Dancing Bear was available. I want to say it might have been August of 2024. At the time, we were renting space at Oregon Contemporary Gallery for storage and office space. And one day I just got in the van, was leaving to head home, and I saw on the marquee for a lease. Called the phone number, got in touch with the building owner. We negotiated. I signed the lease in must have been November or December of 2024. And then it took us all this time to navigate getting the designs from TVA Architects, working with Liminal Shift, our general contractor, getting the city to give us all the permits we needed to start work. And just it's been a labor of love for almost a year and a half in getting the site ready for public consumption.
A site that used to be a strip club.
Correct.
How much had to change inside to turn it into a modern venue and an all ages venue?
It was gutted.
So just all the way down.
All the way down.
Right to the studs.
Yes, pretty much. The windows had been smashed and covered in plywood. There was a bit of mold and dampiness, considering this is Oregon, and if you have a place that's completely shuttered down for close to 2 or 3 years,
you're in trouble.
You're in trouble. So it was literally, smudging, disinfecting, cleaning, ripping things to the studs. And like I said, I want to give a big shout out to TVA Architects because they designed an incredible space that has great flow. We've got an ADA viewing platform for people in wheelchairs to see the stage. We've got a T-shirt manufacturing area. We've got 5 bathrooms and like a box office. It's really an amazing space.
Clara, can you tell us about the first show that your band played there?
Yeah, we played in November, and I believe it was the first show at the Offbeat, the first official one.
Oh, so the big grand opening was last month, but there were other shows earlier, and you played at the very first night?
Yeah, and we opened, so we were the very first band.
Wow,
at the very first
that's
show.
an honor.
It was super exciting. Yeah, and it was great. And it's changed a little. The green room's in a different spot now, but it's cool to see how it's changed from the first show to the grand opening and then all the shows in the future.
Yeah, we've had a couple of bands that have played multiple shows there already. And every time they come in, I say, wow, it's changed so much since I was here 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. So every week either it's getting new paint or we're getting curtains or we're getting new lights. It's been a growth process for sure.
Claire, I mean, to me, I can see why it'd be more comfortable in some ways to actually play in a space that has a green room with like a full soundboard. But do you miss anything about the kind of the DIY sort of more punk world of just setting up a show under a bridge?
Yeah. It's great because now we can have both. So we always have the Offbeat as our sort of comfortable space that's always going to be still there. But then there's just so much gear that we still have access to as someone who works with Friends of Noise. So even if I want to put on another show under the bridge, then I can just ask for gear and give a date and get it together still. So it's great now that I don't have to rely on like people to put it together on some parking lot, but now I can do both.
Andre, when we've talked to folks who run venues in the past, one thing that we've heard is that, first of all, it's hard to make it work financially. But another thing is that one of the big ways it can work is that people who go to concerts also buy alcohol, buy drinks, and that can actually sustain a venue. It's not just tickets; it's also drinks. That's not happening at your venue. So how do you think about the economics of an all-ages venue?
Right, yeah, the people in the audience can't see me shaking my head vociferously. Our model is multifold. We've always had multiple streams of revenue. So whether it is hiring out our sound engineers to do sound at a festival or a block party or a gallery opening, we have an innovative program that we've just launched called the Season Pass, which is basically a subscription model. So we've had at least close to 50 adults buy subscriptions on behalf of young people they don't even know, where young people get access to 3 free concerts every month for a year. So that is bringing us guaranteed revenue, whether those kids happen to use it for those concerts or not.
Subscription, but it's really, as you say, it's more like they're donating their money so that young people can go to concerts.
Correct.
In the same way that when we do an OPB fund drive, sometimes we'll say, hey, contribute money to OPB so that people who can't contribute today, they have a robust service.
Right. And being a nonprofit allows us to do that in innovative ways. We always split the door with the bands. It might be 50-50, it might be 60-40, might even be 35-65. So we've got to figure that out. But having a sustainable economic model has been an important part of this process from day one.
Clara, how do you think about just what it means to have this space where young artists and young fans can gather to make music, to experience music, to to be together?
I feel really lucky to be a part of it. And I've met some really great people through it, different musicians or people who focus on sound. I feel like that's what's so great about it is it's not just musicians or just like one specific sort of thing, but it brings a bunch of people with different skills together. And through the Sound Squad class, I met M, who I book with now, and we do it as a duo together. And it's great for meeting other like-minded people and people who want to like actually do the same things that you want to do and make things happen.
What other spaces like this are there?
There's a few, or I feel like there's nothing that where young people are like actually doing it themselves. Like there's other all ages venues that young people can go to, but there's nothing where it's so organized and so easy to become a part of it and like actually make things happen and have a hand in that.
André, what have you learned about stepping back so that young people can do things themselves, even if it sometimes means that they're going to not be doing things exactly the way you'd want?
What I've learned is being able to see and bear witness to their joy and happiness. I mean, it's an amazing thing at the end of the night, and Clara can attest to this, where the show's over, the lights are on, and you see 5 to 10 young people look at each other and say, we did this. We made this happen. The people came here to see the music that we booked. They listened to the mix that we mixed. That's been such an amazing experience for me. And it actually makes it easier to step back because I'm seeing them learn the lessons as they do it. And it's a building process they're fully immersed in.
Clara, what are your musical hopes for yourself?
Yeah. My band, we recorded an album last year, but it's sort of been close to our hearts and has not been released. So hopefully we'll get that out at some point.
Like a record release show at the Offbeat, perhaps?
Maybe that's in the works. And we want to record again very soon. So, yeah.
Clara Kornelis and André Middleton, congratulations and thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Clara Kornelis is a musician and a booker and a sound engineer for Friends of Noise. André Middleton is the executive director of Friends of Noise. They joined us to talk about their new space that they and others have opened up, an all-ages venue. It's called The Offbeat. Finally today, our producer Malia Fast joins me to read some of your recent feedback. Hey, Malia.
Hi, Dave. Last week, we spoke with an Iranian American in Portland who shared her perspective on the ongoing conflict in Iran. We got this voicemail from Marcel Degas.
I certainly understand what a hardship it is for the Iranians. At the same time, I think it's time for America not to fight other countries' wars. We should train people. We can arm them. We can do other things, but for us to keep fighting somebody else's war, it's just very frustrating.
We also spoke with U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley about his position on President Trump's attack on Iran. David Martin responded on Facebook, partisan nonsense. Congress hasn't declared a war since 1942, and Obama never got authorization for Libya or Syria. I do wish that presidents did have to get authorization, but that requirement has been ignored for decades. This is just the usual partisan hypocrisy.
About a week and a half ago, we asked folks on Facebook what role they think AI should play in the workplace. Amy Adams said virtually none. Jennifer Sharp said 0.
Scott Dunn wrote, AI should act as a junior assistant, make 0 decisions, let it do 80% of the work, use the remaining 20% to review, polish, and finalize. Then the human makes the decisions. Use it as a force multiplier for efficiency. AI is inevitable and already ubiquitous. Get on the bus or be left behind.
Bill Seymour wrote, AI can be helpful in a lot of tasks, but isn't robust enough to be used for really critical things. It's worthwhile to use it to help with formatting presentations, but I wouldn't want it to be controlling my car.
And Kat Enyart wrote, for context, I work in design. The category AI, as we're framing it in the discourse, is far too broad. There are tools that are incredibly useful for reducing the drudgery that can come with creative work. Tools that can aid in rapid ideation but can become a crutch that dulls your thinking if over-relied on, and tools that have no place in the workplace.
Kat went on to say, I've seen tools used very well by seasoned designers who already know how to think conceptually and to rapidly explore things that would have taken ages to produce, and I can see value in that. It doesn't replace the initial conceptual thinking. I've also seen younger designers turning to these tools before laying a conceptual foundation for their work, which I think cheapens the work and draws the industry towards a kind of hallucinatory sameness. I refuse to have an AI think for me or write for me, and I'd suggest the same principles for everyone. Your brain is like a muscle, use it or lose it.
Meanwhile, Connor Doge Rising asked, can it clean the bathrooms?
Late last month, we also talked about OHSU's new study that found nearly a third of physicians enrolled in Medicaid don't see Medicaid patients. They labeled these physicians ghost providers.
James Armstrong emailed us this. My wife and I opened our pediatric optometry clinic in Northeast Portland in 2020. One of the main reasons was to provide services to the large population of children on the Oregon Health Plan in the Portland metro area. The ghost doctor problem is well known in our industry. Prior to our clinic opening, the only option for many kids in our area was to trek up to OHSU if they could get an appointment.
He went on to say, however, I find it frustrating that this information is something we need a study to highlight, or that there appears to be no understanding for how to solve the problem. We have spent years negotiating to structure reimbursements that will incentivize doctors to participate. Nothing we discuss is controversial or even overly burdensome to the state, but moving through layers of bureaucracy that we've built in our state system is nearly impossible.
Finally, last week we re-aired a conversation about Juniper House. It's a space that once provided end-of-life care for patients with AIDS in Portland.
Pete Reagan sent us this email. In the early 1980s, a group of liberal-minded obstetrical nurses teamed up with several obstetricians and family physicians to open an out-of-hospital birthing facility. I was one of the doctors. I think the birth home was open for about 3 years, and at least a couple hundred babies were born there.
Unfortunately, he went on, after a few years, insurance concerns caused it to close, even though no bad outcomes happened there. That property's next incarnation was the Juniper House, thus moving from one part of life to the other. I hope that publicity around this historic designation reflects this interesting coincidence and acknowledges that many local 40-year-olds were born there.
We always welcome your comments and questions in any form. Our voicemail number is 503-293-1983.
You can also reach us by email. Our address is thinkoutloud@opb.org. And on Facebook, we are at OPBTOL. Thanks, Malia.
You're welcome, Dave.
Tomorrow on the show, we're going to sit down with U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. She is the first Black woman ever confirmed to the highest court in the land and a consistent and clear voice of dissent on it. She's also the author of a memoir that was picked as this year's choice for the Multnomah County Library Everybody Reads program. If you don't want to miss any of our shows, you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. Our nightly rebroadcast is at 8 p.m. Thanks very much for tuning in to Think Out Loud on OPB and KLCC. I'm Dave Miller. We'll be back tomorrow.
Support for Think Out Loud provided by Steve and Jan Oliva, the Rosie Tucker Charitable Trust, Michael, Kristen, Andrew Kern, and Anna Sanford, Kevin and Amy Constam Family Fund.